Hi, my name is James Driscoll, and I'm very excited to be introducing a film that I think will be very near and dear to many Googlers' hearts as well as many engineers' hearts. It's called Dream Big, and I'd like to roll the trailer now. So growing up on filmmaking expeditions all over the world, it didn't take long for Shaun MacGillivray to catch the same filmmaking bug as his father, Oscar-nominated filmmaker Greg MacGillivray. Over the last 10 years, Shaun has been seeking out the world's most spectacular locations and producing award-winning 3D, giant screen films that tell their story, including humpback whales, Journey to the South Pacific, to the Arctic, Grand Canyon Adventure, National Parks Adventure, and now Dream Big. Please welcome to the stage Shaun MacGillivray. Hi, Shaun.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome to Google.
Yeah, thank you, James.
So when I think of IMAX movies, I think of capturing Mother Nature, volcanoes in Ring of Fire, giant mammals, but you turned your lens to humans and achievements in engineering. How did that come about?
Yeah, so this was probably one of our hardest films to make in our 40-year history. And it's how do you take 2,000 years of engineering history and make that exciting and sexy in a 40-minute film? And our strategy ended up being telling stories about ancient and new engineering marvels, like going on a helicopter ride across the Great Wall of China, or learning about the Shanghai Tower, how big it is and how they were able to deflect the wind through an innovative approach. But also telling stories of inspiring young engineers and how they overcame odds, like Minzer Pehlivan, who she grew up in Turkey, went through a 7.6 magnitude earthquake. 80,000 people died. She survived, and she said right after that, I want to be an engineer. And the teachers told her, well, women don't become engineers. And she said, I want to do it. And she has become a really well-known geotechnical engineer. She's based out of Seattle, and she's one of our main characters. So we found those types of stories, and I think it's really, we've succeeded in making a really dramatic, interesting for the giant screen, but also emotional, heartfelt story.
That actually leads into something that I found really insightful from the clips that I've seen of the movie. When I think of engineering, I think of science and technology and mathematics, but compassion is an integral part of engineering, and I hadn't thought of that before, even though I've been working in engineering for a while. Could you tell me a little bit more about what you discovered in terms of the role of compassion in engineering?
Yeah, I think for us, I mean, the film took 3 years to make. We're both a production and a distribution company, and we work with museums and science centers and aquariums all around the world. About 250 of these amazing institutions like the Smithsonian, like the Tech Museum, which is just right here in San Jose, are partners with us. But again, it was kind of during that first process of saying, okay, we're going to make this film. How are we going to make it exciting? The light bulb went off when we were really able to find these stories. And another story that we focused on, it wasn't your typical modern engineering marvel, but it was Avery Bang, and she goes down and works in Haiti and many other places and builds bridges for kids that need them to go across dangerous rivers, like their school is across the river. And so we featured that. We went down to Haiti, we took our big cameras, went down there, and we were able to be there with her while she was with the local people creating this bridge. And that became a really, really compassionate story. We also featured a high school robotics team in Carl Hayden, a group of young Mexican immigrants that went into this underwater robotics competition against the likes of MIT. This was from about 2004. It was actually part of a film called Spare Parts. And they overcame all the biggest odds ever, a very David versus Goliath story, and beat out the likes of MIT. And we tell that story in the film as well. So again, it was finding these kind of inspiring, compassionate stories that I think mixed with the amazing giant screen wow moment elements, which we talk about a lot in our industry, so that I think a lot of people are going to get excited about this type of film.
And is that your intention, to get people excited, or were there specific people that you wanted to get excited?
Yeah, so the film, it came about us partnering with the American Society of Civil Engineers. And they said to us, not just civil engineers, but engineers in general, we need more of them, especially in the US, and especially more female engineers and more minorities. And they said, how as an association can we do this? And a great way of doing that is by being able to craft an incredible story for this type of platform. We get 25% of our audience from school field trips. And being able to get fifth graders excited at an early age, hey, I could do this. I could be an engineer. I could be a computer engineer. I could be a civil engineer. I could be a geotechnical engineer. You got to light that spark, and that's what these films are able to do. They light a spark in a very contained time period, but then we're also working with the museums and science centers and having educational material, educational outreach that comes with the film. And for us, working with the American Society of Engineers, they've got just over 1,000 volunteers that are going to be going out to each museum and science center, and really making it so that once kids get in there and get to watch the film, they get to learn more about it afterwards. So it was great to be able to work with them, and then for a lot of what we do is working with other partners as well. And we were able to get the Bechtel Corporation to step up to the plate and be a huge supporter of the film as well.
And so I heard the theme of diversity in engineering in your last response. And after working on this film and getting so engrossed in engineering throughout the world, why is diversity in engineering important?
Yeah, I mean, I think new ideas, I think new thoughts, but also a big part of it is just maybe they haven't been exposed to it. Maybe they haven't heard as that this could be a fantastic profession, and I think that's being able to create that spark, like I said, at an early age. And for us, a big part of what we do is reaching out to underserved youth around the U.S. and we get field school trips to come to these films with museums and science centers, but a lot of the problems as far as field school trips is the cost of the buses. So being able to actually pay for the buses then exposes a whole nother layer of of kids who potentially wouldn't be able to see this type of film and get excited about this type of profession, which I think is fantastic. I think we all want that.
Yeah, and I think at Google, we're always tasked with thinking about the user. How are people going to be interacting with our products, especially people that might have physical challenges? How does a blind person use Google products? And so I think in terms of diversity, really having that ability for a diverse group of people to put forth ideas to, at the end of the day, help people navigate this world in a better way, I think is really exciting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that when it comes to engineering, and specifically in a variety of fields, there is the kind of stereotypical, old white males like sitting around a conference room or something like that. And I think everyone in the field would like to change that.
Moving from filming mountains and storms to filming people and filming achievements in engineering, what surprised you about filming this movie?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that surprised us was really the process of going, okay, how can we make this film as exciting as possible? And then finding the light bulb of, okay, we got to find these amazing young female and other male stories that are inspiring. It's not just trying to think of the biggest achievement, the biggest like skyscraper out there. It was more finding it intermixed with okay, what are the inspirational stories that can really capture hearts? And I think we've been able to do that with this film. And I encourage everybody to go to the Tech and watch it. It's coming out at the Tech February 15th is when it comes out. And it's going to be in about 50 theaters around the world.
I'd love to go over National Parks Adventure. I saw that in the IMAX theaters. I was blown away by your ability to capture Yosemite, for example, which is very close to my heart. So let's roll the trailer for that and discuss that.
Not so long ago, the early pioneers had no idea what lay beyond the frontier. Imagine an entire continent of unmapped wilderness and a people who believe that the greatest natural wonders belong to no one. They belong to all. 100 years ago, these pristine places, America's wild, were protected for eternity, for everyone. And the national parks were born. Join a team of modern-day explorers on an off-trail adventure into America's great outdoors. And find your way back to the most awe-inspiring, heart-stopping, jaw-dropping places that belong to us all. MacGillivray Freeman's National Parks Adventure. Coming soon to IMAX and giant screen theaters.
So I think you traveled to 30 different national parks to make that film. Do you have a favorite?
Yeah, so there's just over 400 National Park Service sites around the U.S. And just thinking about, like, as we started making that film, okay, which parks should we feature in a 40-minute film? It was really, really tough. But we wanted to get like some of the iconic ones, like Yellowstone, Yosemite, the Grand Canyon, and then also some hidden gems. And we go to a place, which I'll talk more about in a little while, Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore on a frozen Lake Superior in upper Michigan, where we were able to film ice climbing and ice caves that seemed like out of this world. Just I'd never seen anything like it before. So that could be one of my favorites, but just from a sentimental reason, it'd be Yosemite. It was the first park that I went to with my family growing up when I was 5 years old, and I just remember being there, seeing Half Dome, seeing these amazing vistas, and just going, how could you not fall in love with nature? I mean, just so breathtaking.
And I wonder, do you feel some responsibility as a filmmaker to capture some of these environments while they still exist? Thinking about the Arctic and ice shelves and just changes that are happening around the globe. I know that I hope for my children they'll be able to see the Yosemite that I grew up with, but I don't have an IMAX camera. You do.
That's okay. I'm sure Google will make something like that in a little bit. Yes, I think there absolutely is that idea. The idea that we need to capture it not only to inspire people, but also for preservation's sake. So that we have it documented the way it's like, and documented in a way that's of such high quality, so that 100, 200, 300 years from now, people can actually, it's still there, it's still recorded, it's still alive, and people can say that's the way it was. And hopefully it's not too different from the way it is right now. With the Arctic, I think a lot of us are afraid that that's going to change dramatically. And that was one of the reasons why we made that film called To the Arctic. Is you guys got to watch it. It's about a mother polar bear and her 2 cubs, and we went up to Svalbard, Norway, and we're with this polar bear family for 5 days straight, and got to see the mom nurse her cubs like about 30 feet away from us. Got to see the mom feed her cubs. They were chased by a male polar bear. It's an incredible story, but we did it and we featured polar bears because they're compassionate animals that everybody loves, even though if you got close to them, they would eat you. And so again, it was about that preservation, conservation, and what got us excited about the national parks. It was, and we're still celebrating it, the 100th anniversary of the National Park Service in 2016. It was a big deal. And so we partnered with the National Park Service. We partnered with Brand USA, which is basically, they market the U.S. to international travelers, getting more people to come to the U.S. And there's a lot of international travelers that go to the national parks. And we also partnered with Expedia and Subaru to make it happen funding-wise, when they were great partners as far as marketing. But it's all about that idea of how important is the story of the national parks. How important is it for us to be able to protect it for future generations? And so along those 30 parks or more that we featured, we also wanted to tell the story of how they were developed, like how it came about. And that's really a story of Teddy Roosevelt and John Muir. And we went to Yosemite and did this whole recreation, found a Teddy Roosevelt, that this is what he does every single day. He is Teddy, and he's the best Teddy in the world. And John Muir, who every single day he's got the beard. It's like his real beard. Even though he's not Scottish, he may be Scottish, but he doesn't have to speak in a Scottish accent. He's spoken a Scottish accent the entire time. So totally in character, and they did a fantastic job. And we featured a 3-day camping trip, which is one of the most kind of iconic camping trips ever, where they got together and they said, this is what we should do. We should create the National Park Service. And being able to tie in, okay, well, with the 100th anniversary, how it came about was a really cool, important element. And that's one of my favorite scenes in the movie. So if you haven't seen that movie, you got to see that one too.
I was also looking for a tip. You said that there were some hidden gems.
Yeah.
I guess you're going to reveal it right now, hopefully. But
okay, I will reveal it. Well, I mean, one is definitely Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore. Go there in the winter. It'll be -20, -30 degrees, but you have the opportunity to see something that you feel like you could be on a different planet. when you're going into frozen ice caves and you're getting out there by either snowshoes or skidoos or whatever. Once you get in there, and what's cool about the showing it in 3D is you really see like these ice crystals come out at you. But once you're there, you can't believe, you feel like you could be 100,000 years ago. Another place, and there's so many to really say the hidden gems, but one place in particular that could be still a hidden gem. I think they're promoting it so much that it may not be after a while. Is just southern Utah. Bryce Canyon, Arches, Canyonlands, just the red rocks. I loved it. That was one of my favorites. Is getting to see these things that were kind of sculpted over the last million years, millions and millions of years, and that's art, and that's what we have. When it comes to the U.S., Europe has the Louvre. They have these amazing man-made places. We have art in our national parks. Yeah.
So I imagine it's a huge accomplishment to make a film, but I'd also think it would be pretty exciting to see people's reactions to those films. So do you ever hide in the back of an IMAX theater and see a group of kids, a school trip, their reactions?
That's honestly, that's like my favorite part. I love it, and especially when it's school kids. When you get like 3rd, 4th, 5th graders, and many of them maybe haven't seen a giant screen film before. It's their first field school trip. They're excited. They're excited because it's a field school trip. It's not considered learning, even though it is. And you can't hear Robert Redford or Meryl Streep or Jeff Bridges from Dream Big because they're so freaking loud, because they're so excited, because they're reaching out at the screen because it's in 3D and they're like, oh my God, I get to go to a different place that's outside of my school. It's really exciting. And a big part of what we do is try and take people, especially kids, to different places, and you really get that with this format. So it's as formats continue to get kind of smaller and smaller and more mobile, it's kind of cool to be able to look back and say, holy crap, I'm completely immersed in this space with 500 people that are experiencing the same thing with me, and I can sit them and be like, hey, did you just see that? That was, yeah, it's fun.
It also makes me wonder, what opportunities do you see beyond the IMAX screen?
Yeah.
Is there, at Google, we have developed some pretty interesting things in VR. Are you exploring that area at all?
Yeah, we are, and a big reason for it, VR / kind of 360, is it's another way to take that kind of immersive experience and to put it in your home. And I'm never going to tell people, hey, don't go to a giant screen IMAX theater, because I think it's amazing. But being able to create content, we just did for our National Parks film, it was the first time that we'd done this. We created a 3-minute short film where you get to experience it with the headset. And then we just did a work with the Arizona Office of Tourism, where we have Rachel Pohl, who's our main character in National Parks Adventure, going skydiving for the first time. And we said, well, can you go skydiving over the Grand Canyon? And she said, okay, yeah, because she's a total adventurer. And so we did that in 360 VR as well. And for us, it's all about, okay, well, how do we get this content out there so people can see it? And so we're just now starting to discuss it with partners.
Cool. And then last question before I open this up to audience questions. How would I be able to see Dream Big?
Yeah. The best way to see any of these incredible films, and I've actually been lucky enough growing up with my dad in this industry for the last 40 years, is the past films, you can actually see this little blonde-haired kid as he grows up, an extra in a lot of these movies. I wasn't an extra in Dream Big. I was at least the producer. But how you can see it is at a giant screen. And when it comes to San Jose, it's the Tech Museum. They're a fantastic client of ours. It's a dome screen. There aren't many dome theaters in the world. I think they're cooler than 3D. I won't tell that to our 3D clients, but and nobody's gonna know about it now. But just being like this, like where it's like completely encapsulated over you, it's an incredibly immersive experience. You don't see it really in many places around the world. So in San Jose, that as you go to like LA, it's at the California Science Center. As you go to Washington, D.C., it's at the Smithsonian. Seattle, it's the Pacific Science Center. We're releasing, and we typically do this in waves, but to start with, it's in about 50 theaters, 50 cities around the world. And it'll continue to roll out to probably about 100 to 150 cities around the world by, over the next 2 years.
Very cool. Well, I hope that there are hundreds of thousands of new engineers that are inspired through this film. So
I hope so too. That'd be good.
Cool. Do we have any audience questions?
Thanks for coming. I was really interested on your most intriguing, unexplained engineering feat.
I don't know enough about computers and computer science. There's like just the whole idea, and I'm not just placating to you guys here because it's Google, but it is really just the future of technology. The future of where we're going, especially in my industry, like where we're going next. Like, and what does that mean as you put the intersections of story, of obviously there's got to be funding tied to it. So like advertising / new experiences. I think that's really exciting. And then from like the engineering aspect as far as technology and what's in our movie, I think it's really interesting, just the whole, how do you make these buildings and structures more environmentally friendly? How do you deal, and this is the part of the film, like we're gonna have more and more people in cities. How do we make our cities as great as they can be, knowing that more and more people are gonna be there? So I think that's another really, and then future transportation, like you hear about like Hyperloop, like we have a little bit of a small sequence in the film. I mean, if I can, come from LA to San Francisco in 30 minutes, that's pretty exciting as well.
So I actually started working out in the movie business as well, so I know a little bit about what happens behind the camera. And my concern has always been, gosh, we've got documentaries and then we've got the entertainment films.
Yeah.
And of course the entertainment films, blow the heck out of the box office. And
yeah.
My question is, not only are you battling with that, competing against that, but then there's the infrastructure of these, large screens that you require. And the question is then, how do you compete against, the entertainment machine, which I can't personally stand most of the stuff that comes out of there.
Yeah.
And how can we make it so that, more and more people see your stuff and are inspired, in fact?
Yeah, no, great question. So we'll never be able to compete with the Disneys, the Marvels, the Universals as it relates to like big budget, $300, $400 million movies that gross $3 billion. There's no way. But what's exciting about our platform, and it's all about partnerships, is we've got a fantastic museum, science centers. Just in the U.S. alone, they get 850 million people that come through their doors. And one of their big things that they showcase as far as education are these incredible films in these amazing theaters. And these are theaters that, they did cost a bunch of money to put in. And that's why it's so important for us to create quality, really interesting, exciting, as well as educational films. It's hard to get somebody to pay for a ticket. It is. And that's what we're able to do, and that's an art, especially with a 40-minute movie. Last year for National Parks Adventure, and I'm proud to say it, we were the highest grossing box office documentary film of the year, just over $22 million. And that's testament to us being able to create films in theaters with our partners and to make it feel like it's an event. That's a big deal. You got to rise above the clutter. It's tough. I mean, there's so much media that's out there. But one aspect of why it's exciting is that it's in a theater. You get the buzz, you get the local press, you get everybody involved, outside of just trying to put something on YouTube and hope that it actually gets viral. God, if somebody could tell me how to create a viral video, that'd be great.
Actually, we have YouTube's physics girl.
Is it? She knows how to do it. There you go.
We will connect
All right.
after this.
All right. Well, we try, and we've been successful, but not every time. God, it's tough.
I think she needs some swag.
There you go. Yeah, she does. I forgot. Here, have a water bottle. Yeah.
As I'm sure there's a bunch of outdoors folks, as well as engineers or prospective
Yes.
ones in the crowd.
You could be both.
I am both. I'm lucky. I'm curious to hear a little bit of perhaps a behind-the-scenes funny moment from either any of your movies.
Yes, behind the scenes funny moment. God, let's see. Well, I don't know if it's super funny, but it was interesting. So when I came to National Parks Adventure, we were all set on going to Yellowstone in winter, and we covered it in summer. We got the geysers, we got these beautiful, beautiful scenes, but we wanted to capture in winter as well. And so we're all, we're waiting for winter. We'd booked all the coaches because you get out there and you've got to have these kind of stage coaches, I guess you call them, to get out there. And we're looking on the live cameras because they have live cameras, which is kind of cool. And it looks like summer. There's no winter. It didn't happen on the West Coast that year. Like, it really didn't. And so we're like, we got to have winter in this movie. Where are we going to go? And so that's when we started looking up, okay, what does our one climber do so well? Conrad Anker, he's an incredible ice climber. And where can you go for that? And that's when we pieced together, in like a month, we found out about Pictured Rocks. And so we were able to put together this, we had planned for Yellowstone for like a year. And we put together this whole expedition to frozen Lake Superior, like Upper Michigan. You're just going, what? And it became the kind of ending in the movie. We've got a really cool song, Hallelujah, is played over that. It's pretty spiritual. A big part of what we try and do is have fantastic music and a score as part of it. And we're very, very fortunate to work with a variety of different artists when it came to National Parks Adventure, including we got Bruce Springsteen's rendition of "This Land Is Your Land," which I think is a fantastic theme for the movie.
What were like the most extreme, maybe cold climates that you were in, and like what survival tips do you have for someone who doesn't really experience below 50 degrees that often?
Yeah. No, that's a good one. It's coming from Hawaii, I guess. When it was about -20, -30 degrees, which that was the coldest that it got as far as any location for National Parks Adventure and for Dream Big. It was funny. Our cameras, we had our big 3D IMAX camera, which if you haven't ever seen this, you got to look on. We got a ton of videos on YouTube under MacGillivray Freeman Films. A great name for branding, by the way. Kind of a mouthful. It's 300 pounds. It looks like a small, kind of a big refrigerator. It takes 4 people to lift, and it hates the cold. And it still shoots film, and it's film that's 10 times larger than 35 millimeter. And you get about 3 minutes per load, and then you've got to reload. And so as we're out there in -30 degree weather with it not liking the cold, we put a big tent around it with a heater inside when we weren't filming. And the camera operator got to be in the tent, but nobody else did. So that's how you'd bribe the camera operator to get into the tent, and then you'd be warm. Otherwise, my hands were getting cold.
And, we have one question from the Dory. This is from Christine. She asks, if national lands are given away to the states, what can we do to help protect them from being sold off or altered from the natural states?
When you that kind of comes back to changing public opinion and being able to create campaigns to get people more conscious and excited about how important it is to protect, especially wild lands that are still wild. And that's, that was a big part of our film was, how do we keep, and these are national parks, so they do have distinction. but how do you keep it on top of people's mind? And that was a big thing for the National Park Service, especially for how much they promoted the 100th anniversary, was how do we get the next generation of young kids to continue to be excited about these amazing places, especially when so many of us are living in cities where they may haven't had an opportunity to experience wild like that. And one way, and I think it's a great way, is seeing it, at least to begin with, in a big, big theater. And then you got to get your RV going if you're a family. And I can't wait to do it with my kids, and just go to these places because they're incredible.
I'm over here. I was going to ask what's the state of the equipment that you film with, and you just kind of answered that. But then there's one question is, what was the equipment for filming the 3D VR, and also for the regular stuff? Why is it still film? Is that kind of it just hasn't been updated, or is there digital on the way, or are things getting easier?
Yeah. So for us, our biggest thing when it comes to making these movies is being able to film with the best quality capture / we're all about quality. So it's like whatever tool we can use that is the best, we'll use it. And so for national parks, we actually filmed, and we were able to just because it was a little bit easier filming, especially landscape shots with a big camera. So we used our IMAX 3D camera for a majority of it. For Dream Big, we shot more with digital, but we also shot with IMAX film as well. So as digital keeps on getting better, and each year, I mean, it's getting better each year by a lot. We're starting to use more of like the highest resolution, highest, best digital cameras. And when it came to VR, we're still kind of testing it. There's a bunch of cameras that are out there, from GoPro's camera to a variety. I just heard over the last year that Google is creating a camera with IMAX, which is interesting as well. Maybe we'll be able to test that out. So it's I think it's an exciting space. I mean, the difference, and we've actually been able to use some of our really, really high resolution images so that you have a little black on the back, but you kind of feel like you're there still in VR in a really interesting way. And we've got a ton of content there. So being able to potentially use that for VR could be very interesting as well.
Hi, I have a question on the same theme that we are talking about, VR. So as a filmmaker, how does it change the way you plan the shoot, or the composition of the shot, and the way you see things is different compared to, let's say, a film camera, which is just certain, there's an aspect ratio which is captured, but with VR it's like 360. So how do you it changes the way things are shot. So.
Yeah. So I'll tell you a funny story. I don't know if it's funny, but I'll tell you anyways. One of my dad's first movies back in the 1970s. He went to China, and it was one of the first times that there was outside a kind of Hollywood film production company going into China, and he did the China 360 experience that played at Disneyland for so long, and that was basically VR back 40 years ago, and the challenge was, and it's still today, but it's much smaller cameras, was, okay, everybody's got a duck. Basically, he'd have the camera up like 10 feet tall, and the camera, I mean, this was probably 8 different cameras, and they're all film, and then he'd have his entire crew, which is a big crew for probably 500 pounds of equipment, and they'd all be huddled beneath the camera. And then you got great stills of this. And they're going in China, and China was a very different place 40 years ago. And they were going all around China filming with this incredibly different, exotic camera. I mean, that would have been a trip to be on that. It's before I was born.
You mentioned working with underserved communities as part of what you do, and you use the example of funding school trips and their buses. Yeah. I was wondering, what organizations you partner with and what other initiatives you were talking about in that.
Yeah, well, I mean, that one's pretty close to our heart. Is getting underserved youth and to be able to come to these what we think are incredibly educational / kind of inspiring experiences. And it all revolves around just getting to pay for buses. I mean, it's one of those things where the budgets continue to get kind of hammered down as far as districts. And so as we work with our museums and science centers, a big part of their revenue that comes in the door is through field school trips too. And so whenever we can find corporations, donors that are as excited about it as us, we try and make it happen. We've got a big goal for Dream Big. It's to get 1 million fifth graders with a focus on underserved youth to come to see the movie. And it's a big goal. We'll see. But any help that you guys can give as far as spreading the word would be great.
Hi. So your movie Dream Big is about engineering man-made stuff, and then national parks is nature. So what is your next project?
Sorry.
What is your next project going to focus on?
Yes. Thank you for asking that. We're really excited. Our next movie is all about music and how music influences culture in regions around the world, around the U.S. It's called America's Treasures, or at least that's the working title. And we just got back from filming in New Orleans. We were filming with Aloe Black and Dr. John and Irma Thomas and John Baptiste, and there's so many great cities around the U.S. that have major musical influences, from Chicago, New York, Miami, Seattle, even San Francisco, LA, and Nashville, which we're going. That's our next shoot. We're going to Nashville. And it's kind of a little bit of a different film than what we've made before. So we're really excited about it. It's going to have those big, amazing wow moments as well as far as adventure and excitement. But you'll get to learn about kind of the history, diversity of music, the influences from all over the world that has kind of made this melting pot of who we are as Americans here in the U.S. It should be exciting.
I love the idea behind Dream Big, and it resonates with me because I was a pre-med in college and not loving it, and stumbled into this class called Other Careers for Engineers, where they brought in really cool engineering, like civil engineers and Howard Jarvo, who did the artificial heart. And I went, oh my God, that's what I want to do. It is so cool.
Yeah.
So I get what this movie can do.
Yeah.
And I would love to see it hit 1 million school kids. And I'm wondering if you are working with any organizations to wrap some curriculum around it so that teachers can really bring it into their classroom and make it much more part of their learning.
Yes. Yeah, thank you for asking that. And I'll throw this, I hope I don't hit anybody. Yes, we're working with the American Society of Civil Engineers who and a variety of different other partners, including Engineers Week and our museums and science centers. There's a few museums and science centers that really helped craft the basically I wouldn't call it curriculum, but it's learning plans, learning lessons, and many of them you can actually see on our website. It's just dreambigfilm.com, and this has actually been our biggest. We have a ton of educational outreach that is coming with this film. Just over $2.5 million of educational. It's a lot, and so we're really excited about it. And it's because of our partners as far as working with them to make it happen. So there's a ton of materials. There's a lot of volunteers that are getting involved, and it's what's kind of cool about it is it's local in nature. It's like it's getting your cities excited about this and getting the press around it and then just getting these kids so that they actually not only see the film, but then get to do all these different activities. And we've come up with a bunch of different activities through our partners.
Well, first of all, I wanted to say that when I was a child, going to the Omniplex Science Museum and seeing, the exhibits and, of course, the IMAX movies was one of the things that really inspired me to be interested and to pursue the sciences. So
Awesome.
Thank you for continuing that. And then my question is that, unlike a traditional theater run, like these movies will be on for like a couple of years at the theater. Like, so how does that affect your decision on how to make the movies relevant, but also have like the timeless quality?
Yeah, it's an amazing question. It's tough. You've got to. So we've had Two Fly play at the Smithsonian since 1976. It's still playing there. It's close to like 100 million people have seen it in that theater. Crazy. And it does look a little dated, but the way that my dad, and I was not born when he made this, the way that he made it, it's still pretty dang exciting watching it. So the way that we do it is you try to make it so that it can be timeless. With structures, it's like for Dream Big, we don't say that the Burj is the largest skyscraper. Like, that's not a line. You see the Burj, but we don't say it. We try and keep the narration, pretty less intensive in these movies, so it feels more like an experience. But that could have been one of the reasons why we did that as well. There will be another big skyscraper that's bigger at some point, probably pretty soon. So the films will play for years. Everest is still playing since '98. That was our highest grossing IMAX film of all time. National Parks it's been playing at the Tech, and it is still playing at the Tech. I just spoke with the theater manager. It's doing so well that she's kept it on even after a year. So if you haven't seen it yet, go over there.
Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for making National Parks Adventure. Thank you for making Dream Big and spreading the love for engineers among the wider world.
Absolutely.
And thank you for coming to Google.